know the details of a trauma bond, but I want to talk to you about this piece of you being addicted and keep going back to this guy 24/7. You might be addicted to this guy, and it's not just you go back, but it's you can't get him out of your mind. So you might be one of two people. You might be a woman who is trapped in a toxic relationship today, or you're a woman that is out of the relationship, but you can't get him out of your mind. Maybe you're struggling trying to not go back to him because every time you try to leave and every time you try to go to contact, you keep going back to this guy no matter what, thinking that you're the problem, thinking he's changed, thinking that it might be different. And all it does is continue to produce the same cycle over and over and over. You might have an addiction. You might have a trauma bond. We're going to talk about trauma bonds today, and I want you to see and take a self-evaluation of your life. Is this you? Do you have this? Is this something that you're currently struggling with? And if so, I want you to let me know in the comments because we want to be able to help you move forward, heal, and grow and develop you. What is a trauma bond? Well, I've used the word addiction already because it's similar to an addiction. It's similar to Stockholm syndrome, of like the idea of where you fall in love with your abuser, you fall in love with your captor, and as a result, you'll defend him, you'll stick up for him, you'll keep going back to him over and over and over. Even if you know that he's a toxic guy and he shouldn't be in your life, you'll keep going back. This is the trauma bond. You see this inside of physical abuse victims when the police show up and they get ready to arrest the guy, and the lady's like, no, please don't take him. I love him. He's different. He's okay. He didn't mean it. They defend, right? Same kind of idea. Stockholm syndrome, same kind of idea, trauma bond. This is what will happen from a mental and emotional space where you will start to defend him to other people. You'll start to defend him to even yourself to justify why you're staying in a crappy relationship, to justify why you're staying with a guy that keeps abusing you and keeps treating you awful. So what is a trauma bond? Yes, it might look like an addiction, might feel crazy. It might feel like the rumination, the stress that's involved of what's actually happening, the confusion. But let's talk about what it actually is. When we break it down in a couple different ways, the first aspect is a trauma bond is built off of hope and potential that's fake. Now, you might think like he has potential, and you look at him, you're like, he has potential. I know he does. I've seen his potential. I've seen how nice he could be. But the problem is he's not doing that anymore. He's not exemplifying it. He's not actually showing up as the man that you fell in love with. In fact, he just keeps happening over and over and over, doing the same exact thing, saying that he's going to get better, apologizing even, but he keeps doing it. You think that he has potential, and you see that he has potential, but the problem is he's not actually using his potential, and there's no evidence of it. So you start to almost gaslight yourself into believe something that's not even true because it's not there and it's not exemplified. We have to bring you back to the facts. Now, there's also a piece of hope, oftentimes false hope. Sometimes the hope is just simply some of your own ego that pulls in of saying, hey, maybe I can fix him. Maybe I can make him better. Maybe I can change him. Guess what? You can't. That's not your job. That's not your responsibility. You're not God to be able to shift and mold and make someone different than who they actually are. Instead, you're a person here that's already been manipulated and disrespected. And what makes you think that he's going to listen to you now? He's not. He never has, and he's not going to just magically switch. But you're going to get tied to him with hope and with potential, thinking that maybe it's going to change, maybe it's going to get better, maybe you'll figure it out, maybe it won't always be this way, and you'll continue to tell yourself that while it continues to be that way over and over and over again. The second piece inside of this is cognitive dissonance. So you have hope and potential to start leaving you trapped, and you have cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is two opposing thoughts at the same time. So like I have two thoughts, right? You might have two thoughts. You might have he loves me, and you might have he hates me. His words or his actions. Which do you believe? Now, it's not just enough to have two opposing thoughts, but then what happens is you come up oftentimes with a third thought that tells you that it's okay, that justifies it, that makes it make sense in your head. Well, he didn't mean to abuse me. He's just having a rough day at work. He didn't mean to be this way. He's just doing this. Well, maybe it's not actually him. Maybe it's my fault that he hit me. There's millions of things and excuses that you will come up with to try to keep you stuck, to try to keep you trapped. The cognitive dissonance is one of the biggest pieces that we find people struggle with because it screws with you mentally and emotionally. And if you don't actually look at the evidence, at the facts of the situation, you'll start to tell yourself lies. You'll start to tell yourself stuff that's not even real. But as a result, you'll stay trapped, trauma bonded, and stuck long term. So consider for a moment, you might be in a trauma bond if you have this feeling of being addicted. If you have this feeling of the constant rumination, he's living rent-free in your head, continues happening over and over and over and over again. Maybe you feel addicted because you keep going back. If you're feeling this way, you might have a trauma bond. And it's based off of, one, hope and potential, and two, cognitive dissonance. And then it goes into the third piece, which is intermittent reinforcement. Now, consider for a moment this piece of intermittent reinforcement. Are you getting used to, conditioned, and addicted to the highs and the lows? As a narcissist, the goal is to keep you there. But he's not going to keep you there by his impeccable behavior and his great attitude and his loving demeanor. He's going to keep you there by keeping you stuck in this oscillating back and forth, up and down, good and bad. Because he knows if he takes you down into the pit and he takes you down where it feels like hell being with him, that eventually you will leave. As a result, he has to give you moments of reprieve. Nice moments, good moments, positive moments that make you feel like it's not that bad. This intermittent reinforcement oftentimes almost feels like he can just sense it. He can sense when you're pulling away. He can sense energetically something shifting. She's starting to gain back her power. She's starting to shift and adjust herself. And so as a result, he has to continue to make sure that you stay stuck, which means he might do something. You're like, oh, that's what I've wanted him to do. Why hasn't he done this? It's not because he's magically shifted or changed. It's because he has to shift up how he's manipulating you to keep you stuck just a little bit longer. He's going to continue to torture you over and over and over this long period of time, kind of like dragging you forward, keeping the carrot in front of the donkey, the horse, like keeping you moving forward. Why? Because it's like, well, the next thing is going to be there. We'll eventually get here. I'll eventually propose. I'll eventually do this. We'll eventually go here. I'll eventually take you on this trip. I'll eventually buy you this. I'll eventually, and there's all these promises that are never fulfilled because he's future faking you. He's telling you something's going to shift. Something's going to change. I'll get better. And then he never does. I need you to understand that is not the problem. The problem is that you keep discounting all of it, thinking that it's your fault, and as a result, staying. The problem is not what he's doing. The problem is you not realizing what's happening to you. And as a result, you stay in a toxic relationship for a long period of time. As a result, you stay trapped. Now, many times people will stay with their abuser. They'll be stuck with them physically in the same house. Sometimes people have to start the healing process while they're together just to be able to get the confidence to be able to leave, or the confidence to rebuild themselves so they're strong enough to make the decisions that they need to make, whether that's to stay or whether that's to go. One of my first meetings with Samantha, one of the ladies that's inside of our group and one of the ladies I work with one-on-one now. When I first met with her, she was very nervous because she was nervous that I was going to tell her to leave or that I was going to tell her to break up, to split the relationship. And I'm like, hey, I'm not actually here to be able to make or break your relationship. I actually don't care. And kind of caught her off guard for a second. I was like, one of the things I'm here for is I'm here for you to stand in your clarity, your confidence, and actually have certainty in your own power, your own strength. That doesn't mean that you're going to be with or that you're going to leave. But what that means is you're going to transform. You're going to be different than the person you are right now that's confused and that's lost and that's alone to the person that you actually are today. It's been massive to be able to see her growth, to be able to see her break the trauma bond, to be able to see her actually move past the place that he's no longer triggering her, he's no longer manipulating her, and she's able to stand up in her power. And she's currently still in the relationship. She's navigating. What does that look like? How do I process it? How do I let go and not feel bad about it? How do I still move forward? But the difference is she's doing it in power versus out of control and compulsion. When you're in a toxic relationship, you start to develop this trauma bond. You start to develop this trauma bond, and it affects every single aspect of your life. It affects your mindset. It affects you emotionally. It affects you because you get triggered constantly, no matter what. It affects your purpose. Who am I without this guy? How do I recreate myself without him? Because this is all I've known. The intermittent reinforcement, the ups and the downs are all I've known. So who am I without that? Who am I without the thought of, well, maybe it'll get better. Maybe I can fix him. Who am I without the thought of, he's going to change, and the hope and the potential that leaves you stuck? All of these things are going to leave you trapped in a toxic relationship, addicted in this cycle over and over and over again. And the problem is not him leaving you addicted. The problem is you not seeing and realizing that this is happening to you. So part of what I do on here with content is to try to wake you up. Because if I don't wake you up, you stay stuck. If I don't help you actually see what you're going through, see and understand the reality that this is what's happening to you, that it's not just he's having a bad day, it's been consistent abuse. It's not just that he is emotionally insecure, that he is dealing with stuff in a different way than you. No, it's emotional manipulation. It's not just that he forgot. No, it's that he's lying to you. You have to understand, if you're in a trauma bond, mental, emotional, physical, you will feel trapped. You will feel addicted. You might cycle back to this guy. You might have him live rent-free in your head. You might not have a clue of who you are, of what direction you want to go. All of this is derivatives piece of the trauma bond that makes you feel lost, makes you feel confused. It makes you feel alone. When you're in a toxic relationship like this, oftentimes we'll find people that it affects their bodies. Starts to break down. Autoimmune disease, hair loss, headaches, lack of sleep, drained, no energy. It'll affect how you show up for other people. It'll affect how you snap at your kids, how you get overwhelmed really easily at work, how you get frustrated at other people that you normally wouldn't get frustrated at. It affects how you connect to God. There's a wedge that's drawn there, whether that's from the narcissist or whether that's just from your own disconnection. It affects business-wise, of you actually showing up, being productive in business. It affects your money because of how much he uses or wastes money or how much you spend on him. It affects every single aspect of your life. The problem is not that it affects every single aspect of your life. The problem is you don't realize it. Whenever I sit down with a client the very first time, whenever they fill an application, we sit down, we talk. One of the things we do first meeting is we write things out. Because I need you to see the impact that he's had on your life. I need you to see the destructive patterns that you've allowed into your life. I need you to see how it's affected you. Because there's a piece of ownership that I have to have you see. This is what's happened. This is what's going on. And if we do not change this, this is where you're going to stay, stuck mentally, emotionally, even physically. The mindset is what has to shift. Because many of you, if you went no contact tomorrow and you walked away, you'd go back within 2 to 3 weeks. You'd be back within 3 months. Why? Because you don't know who you are apart from him. You don't know how to separate who you are from the toxic relationship. So as a result, you rebuilding you starting over again, you're like, I don't even know what to start. I don't even know how to do this. Like if I leave him, I don't know how to start over again. Who's going to love me? How am I going to grow and develop who I am? You're not even sure where to start. Because the trauma bond has been around for such a long period of time that it's ingrained into you. It's hidden, almost subconscious programming that has to be rewired, because if it doesn't get rewired, you stay trapped. How many of you feel this way? How many of you feel stuck currently in your relationship? Type in stuck into the chat. Just type it in real quick. You're watching this, you're engaged with this. Time to make a move. Type in stuck. If you feel like you're stuck in a toxic relationship, you might be stuck because of the trauma bond. You feel addicted to this guy. Type in stuck. You might feel like you're at a place where you're worried and you're stressed and you're struggling. Type in stuck. You might feel overwhelmed or you're frustrated, like, I don't even know. Is it me? Is it him? Who is it actually? Type in stuck. You might be at the place where you're stuck thinking of the hope and the potential that this guy has. But the problem is he's been selling you potential for such a long period of time, you almost think it's reality, when in reality, it's not. You're just stuck. Maybe you're at the place where the cognitive dissonance, two opposing thoughts are stuck in your head right now, and you're not sure what to believe. Do you believe his words? Do you believe his actions? You've been telling yourself what to believe for such a long period of time, you're believing lies. As a result, you're still stuck. Maybe you're at the place today where you're looking at and you're just like, hey, it's not that bad because it's going to get better. Just give it a week or so. He'll be better. But then it'll get worse, and then it'll get better, then it'll get worse, and it'll keep happening. Type in stuck. I need you all to see and understand, if you're identifying with what I'm saying, if you see yourself in what I've said today, you need help to break the trauma bond. It's one of the hardest things to be able to break, and one of the fewest people out there that talk about it or that give you the roadmap to be able to heal from it. What we've done inside of Raw Motivations is we've built a systematic roadmap that we've walked thousands of women through to be able to break them free from toxic relationships, mentally and emotionally. Because if you don't shift your thinking, you'll stay stuck. If you don't shift your mindset, you'll stay stuck. Right now, who you are right now is nowhere near who you want to be. Part of you doesn't want to admit that because you're not even allowing yourself to dream big. because you're stuck in your current frame of reality. You're stuck where you currently are, and you don't want to think ahead because then you'll feel disappointed that you're not actually there. But that's the point of transformation, isn't it? To be able to help you move from where you are to where you want to go. To help you move from where you currently are means you're going to have to release certain things. You're going to have to give up things that are holding you back. And I'm not just talking about physical things. I'm talking about your mindsets. The stories that right now you're holding you hostages, the lies that you believe to keep you trapped in a toxic relationship. You're going to have to let you go so you can rise up and become the woman you're called to be. Inside of all this, if you look for structure, if you look for community, if you look for a plan, Raw Motivations has that. We've been developing this for the past couple of years, and we've seen hundreds and hundreds of women that have actually been freed mentally and emotionally. Does it work 100% of the time? No. That's why it might not be for you. The reason why I say it doesn't work 100% of the time is because if you go to a gym and you hire a coach, and you show up to the gym and you expect the coach to lift the weights and you wonder why you don't get the muscles, same concept. It'll work as long as you put in the work. It'll work as long as you put in the effort. As a coach, when I work with you, you've got 24/7 access to be able to message me anytime so I can answer your questions, so I can guide you through. Some people guiding them through divorce, custody battles, what to say, how to respond. How do I deal with these triggers? What do I work on here? Because the trauma bond is one of the trickiest things for people to break. And sad but true, there's a lot of people out there that do not know how to break them. And had not had the track record of being able to show proven evidence of people that have broken their trauma bonds over and over and over again. If you see yourself in this, stuck in a toxic relationship, but you feel addicted to them, you're selling yourself short because you hope that it's going to get better. You're thinking, maybe this will work out. You're hoping and praying that it's going to happen, but nothing's ever happened so far. If you see yourself in this today, then it's time for you to reach out. I want you to go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Be able to watch a video of myself, my wife, talk through our circumstances, talk through everything that happened. Just give you real and raw truth of what's happened in our lives. And also a path, a plan. For you to be able to move forward, to heal and grow and develop who you are. For you to be able to grow, start the healing journey, to shift the mindsets, break the trauma bond, eradicate the triggers, to step into the growth piece of understanding and finding who you are, establishing healthy boundaries. All of these things and more are what we have to help you build in order to rise up into who you're called to be. If this resonates with you today, leave a comment down below that says the word breakthrough. Or go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. Fill out the application. Jump on a free call with me. Let's build a plan about where you are. Let's write down what's actually happened. Let's figure out what's the next step for you. If it makes sense, come work with us. If it doesn't, well, at the very least, you're able to have some details of how to be able to work on you and to get a plan moving forward. If you want to know more, go to rawmotivations.com/breakthrough. If you see yourself inside of this video today, reach out. I have a plan. I have community. I have structure. Be able to help guide you step by step along the way to be free. You have a blessed